involved in making it come to life. Join us as we go behind the door.
Good evening, roomies, and welcome back to a very special edition of Behind the Door with the Grey Rooms podcast. I am your host, Brooks Bigley, and with me tonight are Arthur Unk, the author of Season 1, Episode 6, entitled Ice Station Bravo, Season 3, Episode 6, entitled The Ride, Season 3, Episode 19, entitled A World Worth Saving, and Season 4, Preseason Episode 2, entitled Dead Air.
Good evening, children.
Also with us tonight is Alex Gallegos, the author of Season 2, Episode 5, entitled Thank You for Calling, and Season 3, Episode 7, entitled It's the Little Things.
Hey, well, it is a great thing to be back here in the rooms, and I got my milk, so I'm back.
Woohoo! Tonight we also have Dave Lasota, the author of a Season 2 bonus story entitled Reunited, Season 3, Episode 10 entitled All For Me, and Season 3, Episode 16 entitled Are You Saved?
Here I am. Good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
And rounding out the discussion is C.M. Peters, the author of Season 3, Episode 13, entitled The Prey.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Welcome, everybody. How is everyone doing this evening?
Pretty well, actually.
Trying to stay warm.
The best night ever.
The best night ever. Why is that, Arthur?
I got about 5-6 beers in me. This is going to be a great night.
Oh, man. I am sipping on Campari and tonic as we speak because I'm very regal. What is everyone else's beverage of choice?
How bougie.
Yeah, I was going to say, an aristocrat, huh?
Yeah, that's me. Tut-tut.
I'm having fancy water.
Ooh, describe
so
fancy water, please.
It's water with a flavor in it.
So mysterious.
In a recyclable bottle.
Oh, okay. Well, you're more regal than I am. How about you, Alex?
I have my my favorite co-author, which is a cup of Earl Grey tea, so I'm all set.
Ooh, I love it. Do you put honey and milk in that?
Nope, just go straight black and maybe a little sugar, just as Captain Picard allows.
Oh, there you go. Nice. And how about you, Dave?
Sipping on a little Allagash White, little brewery out of Maine. So it's a little summer beer. I'm trying to will it. I'm trying to will the warm weather.
Good plan.
All right. It hasn't worked. Snowed this morning.
Is it just terrible out there? Like what? So where is everybody from? I know we're all kind of spread. Well, I'm over here on the West Coast. I don't think any of you are very close to me. You all are probably Midwest out to East Coast, right?
Yeah. I'm over in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So we had a little bit of snow this morning.
I'm in eastern Quebec in Canada, which is why I said bonjour.
You win for distance. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm holding down the Midwest in the great state of Illinois. You know, all of our governors go to jail, so.
Oh, man.
It's a great state to be in.
And we're practically neighbors because I'm over here in the land of corn in Iowa.
Nice. Okay, yeah. So you all are very far away from me, and I guess, well, still you're close to everybody there, C.M. Peters. You're just, right? Because are you on, like, the east coast of Canada?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
like the eastern part of Quebec, close to the Maritimes.
She's got all these weird purple pod plants growing around her.
What?
From one of our maritime episodes this season.
Ah, I see.
So you all here have contributed beautiful stories to the Grey Room's narrative, to the anthology portion. Some of you have been around for a couple of seasons. Some of you, have been with us for one season. I really appreciate the fact that you all have shown up here tonight to kind of discuss, your craft, what it is, that you do in order to create the horror stories that we all know and love. It's part of this podcast. Each one of you has a different writing style. Each one of you has a different way that you are able to either showcase the character or showcase the narrative. And so I just kind of wanted to I don't know, bring that to the attention of all the fans and the followers, just kind of how from beginning to end, without laboring too long as I do in each, regular episode here, but just kind of from beginning to end, how, the process goes that you have met, this podcast and then turned a story over to us. So if I could just start plugging away, maybe we could start with you, Alex. You came on with us back in season 2, and you hold the record for having written Arthur's favorite story.
Absolutely.
So
I'll send you an autograph later.
I want a signed script.
Okay. Yay, you got it. Send me an address. I'll make it happen.
Done.
So, Alex, speak a little bit then. What was your experience when you first heard of the Grey Rooms and then deciding, I gotta get a story turned into these people?
It was really fantastic to find not only to find the Grey Rooms podcast at all, but then to find that they were taking submissions on an open basis, because the season 2 story that I wrote was one that I had knocking around in my brain without anywhere to tell it for a long time. And it was like, well, this is just kind of a match made in heaven. Because as you might remember, it's just a little bloody.
Just a little.
Yeah. So it was really perfect. And I think I don't think I got it recommended to me. I'm trying to cast my memory back a few years now. I think I just kind of stumbled across it in like the recommended podcasts on Apple. It was like, oh, if you listen to like Reply All and a couple other things, you might like the Grey Rooms, which now that I think about it, doesn't really fit. But good job anyway, Apple. So Kismet there.
That's kind of like in Netflix when it says, if you like Curious George, you might like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Exactly. Yeah. Same idea.
There's mischief in both, of course.
Yeah, that plays.
So it ended up being a perfect fit for that story. And then I enjoyed the experience so much that I was like, I know I got to come back and do one specifically for the next season. And I haven't done one for any of the subsequent seasons just yet, but I've got one that I'm percolating on. So maybe for 6, who knows?
Yeah. So I got a question for you, Alex. When it comes to how you wrote the story or how you write any of your stories in general, would you say you're more of a pantser, a plotter, or a hybrid of both?
Definitely a pantser.
For people who don't know what a pantser is.
Oh yeah.
Just for people who may not know.
Waist down, just nothing.
Yeah, it's best that we don't let people draw their own conclusions.
It is podcasting. No one's looking at us.
Yep.
I don't want visions of you going around showing people their underwear when they don't want to.
Right. Because I actually had to Google it as well. But so it's basically what the people that, do a lot of outlining and world building in advance versus the people like me that just fly by the seat of their pants. And that's me. I maybe have an idea of the end in mind, or where I'm going to go. But when I sit down at the keyboard, it's like, well, I don't know how I'm going to get there. Let's find out. And then I just kind of dive in with reckless abandon, and hopefully something good comes out. It's not always the case. And sometimes I've got to, go back and rework some stuff, but, it seems like a couple of the results have been okay so far. Yeah,
I mean, your first story to us, thank you for calling, was a very tense story that kept me on the edge of my seat. You kind of subverted the whole idea of people, salespeople calling you and trying to sell you things that you don't really want, and they just got to keep pressuring you until you just cave, and either I'm going to hang up on this person, or whatever, fine, with $20 a month, sure, whatever, just fix my stuff. So yeah, you definitely I think, turned in a very classic horror story. It's destined to be kind of a classic horror story, just by that subversion that you flipped around on us with that caller being, a killer and forcing the salesperson to kind of own up to his shit. And then you deliver this story that was almost like this touching, I don't want to say a love story of aliens, but definitely a very touching friendship that was more than just a friendship, a very honorable friendship between these different beings that were on a spaceship, and just the calamity, that they went through, and then the sacrifice at the end. So, I mean, just the juxtaposition of those two stories was fucking fantastic.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
And you were a pantser for both of those, you say?
Yeah. I kind of start with, just an idea of where I want to go. For the first one, it was like, well, I know I want that twist subversion moment, but it's like, all right, well, how do I justify getting there? And then kind of the same thing, for It's the Little Things. It was like that last scene, it was like, I was kind of figuring that out in advance. It was like, that's the one thing that I knew for sure I wanted before I ever started the writing process. And it's like, okay, but how do I get those two characters into a scenario where one of them has the opportunity basically to sacrifice themselves for the other one? And it's like, well, so I just kind of ended up working backwards from there. It's like, well, a bunch of things are going to have to go wrong is the long or the short answer.
Yeah, it was a little more methodical.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of things going wrong, Dave, I remember, was it you that had the standout story where it had the crazy lady in the shopping center?
Oh yeah, that was mine. Guilty. I think everyone had that experience with, whether it be outside of a gas station or a convenience store or something like that. Just played on that a little bit.
Yeah, season 3, episode 16. Are you saved?
Yeah, that lady creeped me out. I mean, that guy just wanted to go in there, buy his shit, and then next thing you know, he's got this demon witch lady hunting after him, calling him. I mean, it was genuinely creepy because stuff like that happens, at least in my town.
And Karens exist.
True. Amen to that too. No, like I said, everyone has that, I guess, experience, right? That we've been just, hey, all I want to do is run in and grab something, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts out as, whether they were abducted or something like that, right? It always starts out with just something that's innocuous. And then it just escalates from there. And next thing you know, if you pay attention, like I am, and I've said it before, like I didn't want to take a stab at legit mental illness. But play on that, okay, we've all had that experience. What if it wasn't? What happens if it was actually legit and there was something else at play?
Yeah, you got me worried every time I go into Walmart now because I see about 10 people that could all fit that lady's description.
You weren't worried when you went into Walmart before?
Touche.
Was that Aaron Lillis that did the voice of the old lady in that one?
Yes, I do believe so. Yeah.
I think it was them, yeah. And they knocked it out of the park. I mean, that was fantastic. I couldn't have asked for a better or voice on that. They were fantastic.
And that was another example of a story where, as an author, you kind of subverted just a general, I want to hesitate to say a stereotype, but like you said, we've all kind of seen that person on the corner that maybe, has the A-frame board that says the world is going to end, the world is coming to an end, and you took the idea of just, there was no giant monster ripping up the city, there was no ghost haunting people, this person just went in to get some milk and eggs, and he basically met the end of his life with this person that just basically took over the entire supermarket with demonic whatever the hell happened. So, again, a great example of just using simple everyday situations and then just putting, us as the listener through the ringer.
So, Dave, what would you say your definition of horror is?
Oh, that's so personal. Horror for
My
me
bad.
is no. It's an emotion. Right? It is that feeling of unease. It is different for everyone, right? I could watch something or read something, let's say, supernatural or possession story. That's my wheelhouse, and I'd be really affected by it. But if I watch The Strangers and then see a shadow pass by my window, I get creeped out. Right? It's all about evoking that emotion of just unease, of dread, of something's not quite right, and then holding on to it and shaking it up a little bit, right?
So does that fit into your pantser or your plotter style?
Definitely the pantser to start out, especially with short stories. I saw it written one time is I let my characters do what they want and then write the incident report. So I will take my characters and I will allow my characters and we'll go for a walk. And wherever they want to go, I'll let them go. Sometimes they wander off and I have to kind of redirect them and nudge them in the right direction. But it is one of those things where I will take them or they'll take me where they want to go and then I'll add the obstacles for them, so to speak. I don't want to force my characters into an idea. I'd rather have them experience it. I want them to act, not reactive, unless they absolutely have to. The sense of, getting cut in half by a demon.
Yeah, I think one thing all four of us have in common is our stories are very character driven. So our characters are in the driver's seat. We have, I know it's hard for the audience to believe, but we have no idea what our characters are going to do. Mm-hmm. We put them in a situation and then we see them react. That's one of the reasons with seeing Peter's story that I didn't know love could exist in the Grey Rooms in any form.
Yeah, C.M. Peters, your story was, I personally, top 5 for me, just because of the beautiful, like just scenery that you painted around the characters, of this guy that just moved to this new place and just wanted to just befriend people and live his life carefree and not stress over shit. It really was almost like a historical fiction story too, because you brought this folklore from actual real life. I just love saying the word the sukkuyant. Oh, I love saying that word.
And you say it perfectly.
Thank you.
How long did you practice?
Only about 38 times.
Okay, that's why.
That's why you were really nervous. That's what it is. The practicing of that word. I get
it. So how did you then do that, CM? How did you decide to take this kind of folklorish thing and say that would make a great horror story, but also I'm going to layer, this kind of strange, taboo love story over it?
Well, the main idea, I didn't know the Grey Rooms at all. I came upon it through the submission call. And I'm like, ooh, I've never heard of this podcast. And my problem usually with podcasts is that they don't keep my attention. So, okay, I'm going to have a listen to the Grey Rooms. And I was sucked in. I'm like, I can do this. And horror is not in my wheelhouse at all. I never have written a horror before the Grey Rooms. And the Sukkuyant thing was supposed to be part of an anthology about mythical creature or I have a hard time with that word in English, folklore creatures. And I researched from all around the world because it's something that really interests me. And I'm like, okay, this one is hot and creepy at the same time, so I can do something with that. And the prey happened. It just, you were asking the question, pantser or plotter? I'm a total plotter. I have a whole list of scenery, locations, characters. I develop my characters on the side, what they look like, what they like. Everything is put together, but in the end, it's like a movie for me. It's like I'm writing the movie I'm seeing. That's how I write the Sukkuyant, or the prey, I should say. I was just seeing the images of Guadeloupe and what it looks like, what it sounds, what it smells like. I like to play a lot with the senses when I write. So that's how it came about for me.
Yeah, I remember hearing background stories about how Jason was searching for that damn bird and he found it.
I was so impressed when I heard that. I'm like, he did it. He found it. Because I was ready for him to message me and say, can I put this bird instead? And I was ready to say yes, because I know it's not always easy to find. And he found it.
You would have had me on there going, caw, caw.
Man, that's legit sound effects right there. Yeah. And you know, I want to say too, I've said this before on many Behind the Doors, is that the Grey Rooms is not just horror. It's almost too general to just label something as horror. There's so many nuances and subgenres within horror, and as authors, you've all proven that, because, you know, Alex, you had your story, like I said again, about your first story. Thank you for calling, was definitely like a good horror story. I feel like, or very close to just what horror would be. But then your next story was this like sad, emotional melodrama that we went through to get, like you said, to see how this person had to sacrifice himself. And that's not horror, but it's still scary. It's still like a thriller. You know, we want to know how it ended, and there's still death involved. With the Prey CM that you wrote, like, you know, like I never felt afraid of the Sukuyon. I didn't like go walk down the street worrying that like a flash of light would, you know, appear in the sky and then I was going to get attacked somehow by this like succubus woman or anything. But still, the character himself definitely experienced horror. He went through some horror as he was piecing together what the hell was happening, you know, around him. And then with you, Dave, you know, you also did All For Me, which was almost kind of another historical fiction story, just with, you know, the character being persecuted by the village, you know, and being set on fire. And just because people not understanding the things before them, you know, that you know, are of course are easily explained now, but back in the days, you know, we thought everything was voodoo and witchcraft and whatnot. So all of you pulling from just a giant pool of ideas that aren't necessarily pigeonholed as horror, I think it's so important to kind of show the diversity that there is within this, quote, label that we call horror.
I was thinking about that idea of, you know, what really is horror, because it's one of those things that as you start to try to define it, it gets harder and harder to pin down. It's like, well, wait a minute, is Silence of the Lambs horror? It doesn't feel like it is. Feels like it's more a thriller. And the more I thought about it, it's like, I think it's like a chance to explore some of those like ideas and thoughts and emotions that make you ordinarily feel unsafe in a safe place. And that's why it feels good to be scared by some of the scary movies. That's why it feels fun to write some of the stuff too, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I was going to say, in my case, I totally agree with what Alex just said and what Dave said earlier. It's a feeling, an emotion. I'm the type of person that scares easily. So it's easier for me to watch gore stuff than to watch horror stuff, because when I get to like possession stuff, you were saying, Dave, that it's in your wheelhouse. I'm terrified of possession stuff. I watched horror movies way too young, like Poltergeist, for example. I was 8 years old when I watched that. That tree, that TV as well. Terrified. And there was another one about, I want to say maybe 20 years ago, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. If you've seen that one, I had to walk home alone after seeing that at the movies. And that was the last horror movie I saw in theaters because I was terrified.
Well, definitely don't watch The Autopsy of Jane Doe. You don't want to watch that one either.
No.
Sorry
for the pop there.
Exactly. For me, I think horror represents a loss of control. No matter what the situation is, it's just a loss of control, pure and simple, you know. I mean, you're just a camper at your campsite, maybe having some sex with some counselors, maybe doing a little drinking. Next thing you know, some crazy guy in a hockey mask comes through and impales you. Or zips you up in your sleeping bag and beats you against a tree.
That's death.
you're having a dream and some friggin' burnt crispy guy in a bad sweater and an uglier hat comes in and slices your face off. You know,
Why
it's a
not?
loss of control. It's like what Dave said earlier. It's a normal situation, and then all of a sudden one little element twists, and next thing you know, boom, loss of control, and you have horror.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's exactly what Alex said. You're taking the familiar and the safe and making it unsafe.
Yeah.
And that's the emotion that is centralized around horror or being scared, that dread of being out of control. So, I mean, all of us have that point. I mean, I think that the amalgamation of everyone's feelings is what creates horror. And there's no one thing. It has to have all of these elements. Wrong. All of those elements doesn't make me scared. But like I said, home invasion stuff terrifies me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The calls from inside the house, Dave.
Yeah.
And my dumbass dog would go and, oh, give me attention. Purple guard dog.
This is why my door is always locked, even during the day.
Yeah. So, how much of your real life do you put into your stories when you write?
Horror stories, none at all, except the occasional French, because as people may have noticed, I speak French. It's easy for me to use my native language in stories, so that's the main thing I'll put in my stories. Like for The Prey, I put it in a French country because Guadeloupe was colonized by France, so they speak a lot of French over there. So I use that, but in other stories, not really. I try to keep it separate from me. It's like other personalities. It's not really me. I don't like to put stuff about myself in my stories anymore. I used to, because I'm sorry to say, I used to write fan fiction. But at a very young age, I did. And I would put myself as the hero of my stories. But as an adult and book writer or novella, whatever, it's usually my language that I'll use.
Now, Alex, you put any of yourself in your stories or any of the situations you've been involved in?
Oh, yeah, quite a bit. Like, like there was this one time I was just stabbing this guy to death with a pair of scissors. Oh, Brooks, edit that out.
Confession time.
There was, there's quite a bit, definitely in that first one. That one just reads, like when I go back and look at some of the script, or if I go back and listen to it, it's like, oh, that like is a mix of like everything I was thinking about at the time, everything I was reading at the time, and like, and a heavy sprinkling of some of the scam baiting YouTube channels that I was watching at the time. It was like, oh yeah, that's the next level. That's where it's going. It's gonna be great. And then, for, the other one, unfortunately, my space travel experience is limited. But, I have always had a real love of sci-fi, and anything set in space. And so just to get to play around with something like that, not only, from the standpoint that it's like, oh, this is, hopefully feels a little bit like that kind of Aliens feel of that kind of industrial universe, but also, a little bit found footagey, which is one of my favorite genres to go back to. Found audio, same thing. That was just a ton of fun to get to play with, and who knows what spin I'll do for future formats, or maybe I'll just play it a little more straight. But there's always a little something of what's going on in my head at the time in whatever I put out. It's kind of cathartic. It's how I afford therapy because my insurance won't cover it.
There you go. Dave, how much of your real life do you put in your stories?
I am of the belief that if you felt it, you can write it. That's not to say that if you've never been through an experience, you can't write that, right? It is the emotion, and I keep going back to that but it's the emotion that we all share. We've all felt that feeling before. Whatever that feeling is, we felt it, right? So, yeah, there's a little bit of me in Reunited because of, personal situations and being, ostracized, whether it's from friends or family or whatever reason, or experiencing what the main character had gone through with their addiction, being shunned or misunderstood in all for me. And then, I've gone shopping once or twice. So it's one of those things where I could relate with my main character from Are You Saved? But no, I think if you're asking if there's a little bit of me, absolutely, in all of them. It's just the emotions that were felt, and that's how I can try. Or that's what I try, grasp, and hold on to elicit or evoke from my listeners or readers, or whatever.
I think too, something that is being highlighted here is that horror is definitely a very good vehicle to deliver other concepts and other ideas and other stories through. It's a beautiful lens to look at things because, you might write just a typical story about love, but maybe you've never loved someone or been in a good relationship, so you can't relate. So, poo-poo to that story. But we are all humans have been afraid of something. We share that in common, of that being a core, I don't know if fear is an emotion per se, but it's definitely a feeling that we all can see and share. So you might not understand love, but if you write a compelling horror story about love, that might teach you about love because you're still approaching it through the lens of horror. And so it's a great linchpin to kind of tie together foreign concepts to people. Like with C.M. Peters, you said that you like to bring foreign scenarios and your language into certain horror stories or into scary stuff. That's so great that you can bridge stuff that way because, again, that's a way to expose someone to something that they didn't normally understand maybe, but because they understand fear, everyone's fucking afraid of something that can allow you to deliver to them whatever concept or idea that you're trying to bring to the table.
Yeah, that's true.
I liken it to that butterfly or centipede feeling that you get right in the middle of your chest whenever something just isn't right. We might not be afraid of that, but we all recognize that feeling, that anxiety, that dread. We've had.
Oh yeah.
Like Brooke said, we've all experienced that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And the high production value that you get from the Grey Rooms just helps reinforce that. I mean, without JM's music and Jason's sound, we're just words. The Grey Rooms add such a layer, such a depth to the stories that I swear sometimes they reach into my head and just bring it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed.
Well, speaking of the Grey Rooms podcast, I kind of want to open up to some of the questions that, the fans and the followers have been leaving for us to ask. And this might test some of you to see, what you know about the podcast itself. So if you can answer some of these questions, please join in on the fun. If you can't, then just say whatever the hell you think. Pops
The answer is C.
Right. Fingers on buzzers.
So let's open up the floor here. I want to start with we've got a Patreon question here from Richard Wright. And he says, and then asks, he first says, I've listened to the entire series 4 times now and about to start on my 5th time and have many questions. Number 1, how are entities like Bob and Cries born or created? Does anybody want to take a stab at that?
Well, you see, what had happened was, no, for real, a lot of the mythology behind the Grey Rooms comes from the Bible. Some of it comes from Dante's Inferno. So we borrow a lot of those concepts, like a lot of the angels and stuff. A lot of the demons, I mean, they all represent the same things as they would in regular Christian theology. Demons represent the fallen angels. The mount is representative of heaven. I don't know if anybody ever reads the Dresden Files, but you'll get a pretty good idea of what the Grove is like if you read anything from Jim Butcher, who writes the Dresden Files, because that's kind of what it feels like the Grove is based off of most times. So, I mean, our origins come from everywhere else, other literature.
Yeah. Zanke's done an amazing job pulling, I think, from, I guess we would call it biblical history or biblical literature. When I interviewed him at the beginning of the season, he, very much showed, his religious origins of, being a little Catholic boy, and just, it shows in the Catholicism slant, I suppose, that kind of does exist behind, the concept of religion that goes into how we've broken down hell and the hells and the different, what do you call them? Not oh, Arthur, help me here.
The layers.
The layers. Thank you. I was going to say the rooms.
Like an ogre, an onion, it has layers.
Yes. There you go. But it just adds such a rich history to all of the characters that, that we're making up here. Because clearly there's no Bob in the Bible or in any kind of canonical biblical text, but we're able to create a character who could share some kind of origin that comes from that mythos, basically.
And that's true. I grew up Protestant, and I've also looked. There is no Bob. I've searched a couple of times.
Thank you.
Through
Thank
the Bible.
you.
He is not there. So can confirm.
You got to spell it backwards.
You were searching Bob.
Well, I'll go search through the concordance again.
Remember, his name is Wolverike, so
exactly.
You have to retool your search there.
Must find Bob.
Well, I remember talking to Jason once. I think this was like right when season 3 was about to start. There's that scene where a couple of people are going through and like tearing down the hotel to get it ready for the to turn it into the manor. And it kind of reminded me of The Good Place, if anybody's seen that, where I love the kind of aspect as well, where it's like, yeah, it's the afterlife, but also it's like, yeah, everybody just kind of works here, and there's still a management structure that everybody has to report to. Obviously much more sinister in the rooms, but that has just always tickled me from the very beginning as well. That even in the afterlife, there's still this, you still have to kiss the boss's boots every now and again.
Yeah, and if you're a patron subscriber, season 4 does have an origin of the rooms. There's a story called The Gray Lady, and it kind of gives a little bit of how the rooms actually got physically created. So, all right, next question, Brooks.
So this question comes from Jason Porras, who actually has written several stories for us. This is an interesting question. He says, or he asks, the demons are chained to their masters. Does Lucifer hold the chain of Belial and the dukes, or are they more akin to fallen angels rather than demons and thus have no chains?
Ooh.
My brain hurts.
Told you this would test your knowledge of the podcast.
I'm just going to invoke the Matrix and say there is no chain.
Control is an illusion. I think Alex already answered this question. He said that one of the unique things about the gray rooms is everybody has a boss. Everybody has to report to somebody. What do you think, Dave?
I'm thinking that antithesis of what we are as mortals, we have free will, right? So antithesis of that, the exact opposite of that would be more control for whatever. So if Lucifer and the devil is the exact opposite of the biblical God, and if this is based off of that, I think that there'd be a little bit more, I guess, micromanaging from Big Red down there. And let's say Just go ahead and do what you want as long as you're causing chaos. It's all good in my book.
So who's holding Lucifer's chain? If everybody has to have a chain, who's holding Lucifer's chain?
That's the thing, is that he would be
The master, the chain of masters.
Uh-oh, his
The
brain's
masters
going.
of chain. Oh,
Yeah,
His
here we
brain's
go.
going. Here it goes.
This is like asking if God can create a rock so big that even he can't lift it. Like, yeah.
I think he's controlled. If again, this is just fiction, but if he's controlled by the necessity or the desire or the drive, the obsession.
Perhaps it's a circular chain. They just all pull on each other in a never-ending tug of war.
It's an Ouroboros theory from Alex. I like it.
And if my Sunday school teachers listen to this, I'm sorry, I swear.
You failed, Dave. You failed everything we taught you.
Yes, believe me, did I?
What if God is holding Lucifer's chain?
Well, yeah, isn't Lucifer supposed to be a fallen angel himself that was like, "Hey, God, yo, what's up, man? You're not running stuff really fun here. Let me offer an alternative here." And then, boom, he got booted out, and then he created Satanism, basically, right? I mean, that's what I learned in Christian school, I think.
Yeah.
I don't
They
know.
didn't teach it to me with the New York accent, but that's essentially correct, yeah.
Get out of here. Hey, Lucifer, go pound sand, yeah?
Hey, God, go pound sand, yeah?
Yeah.
I'll go create a new thing. All right, peace out.
God. Sorry to all our New York listeners. That's horrible. This has come from a Pittsburgh guy, so it's all right.
You know what?
from
I'm going to go
California.
make my own realm with blackjack and hookers. And,
Good call. Very
Absolutely.
good.
I like
Cool.
it. Next question, Brooks.
All right. Next question comes to us from Queen Cam, and she asks,
All hail the queen.
"All hail the Queen!" Shout out to her. She's a very big presence on our Discord, and she's a big Graham Rowett fan. And she's like you, Arthur. She basically has figured out most of the season before it's even happened, but I think she's just kind of sitting on her notes. She's shown her notes, taking pictures of her notes, and she knows something. I don't know how she's getting these
She can
ideas
see the
here.
Matrix. She
Yes,
can see the
she-
Matrix.
She sees behind the curtain somehow.
Exactly. She works at Chewy, so it's all those endorphins she gets from the puppy love.
So Queen Cam asks, and this is for you as authors, do you all ever read your stories to a group of friends and family to try it out on the audience? Like family game night, invite folks over, have wine, cheese, and storytelling parties. If you have children old enough to listen, do you tell them your stories or censored versions as opposed to reading typical bedtime stories?
I will say no. My family doesn't read English, so that's an advantage for me because when I write spicier things, it helps, or horror stuff, because you were talking religion, and my mom is really into her religion. So me writing horror stuff or vampire stuff, which is something I love, like witch and stuff, she's not really into that. So family, I would say no, but friends have bought my stuff occasionally. But other than that, not really. We're not that kind of gaming night. We actually really do play games.
Ah, there you go. A real family, of course.
Yeah. And I've said this before. My son is infamous for my season 3, episode 19, A World Worth Saving. He's infamously quoted as reading my first draft and going, "Well, Dad, at least you tried."
Aww,
Oh, wow.
that's harsh.
The mouths of babes.
I was expecting to ground him, destroy him, and create another child, but he actually gave me really good feedback. He's like, "You didn't explain this." He's like, "I have no idea what's going on here. You threw this in over here." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I was about to hit submit on this, and you just found like 17 plot holes. Thank you, child."
Good boy.
So I took my royalties and bought him ice cream.
Aw.
I feel like for season 6 we need to vet all of our submissions through children first because they just
that seems completely appropriate and not at all traumatizing.
No, not only
No.
not even. We got to get them prepared for real life.
For a mature audience only, unless it's for editing. Children welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They knew what they signed up for.
I don't think Jason will go for that one.
Do it.
I have never done anything like that, mostly because my approach to editing is wait until like 60 to 70 minutes before the deadline, if that, to put the finishing touches on, and then look at the clock, make sure I'm looking at the right time zone, and then hurriedly submit the final product. Hashtag do not recommend.
The life of a pantser.
By that point, it's too late.
Hashtag anxiety for me. I can't. I'm so early. I can't. That close to deadline, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
What's it like to be early to anything?
To be responsible.
Story of my life.
Yeah. Like Megadeth said, showing up early is on time, and showing up on time is late. A tout le monde.
A tout le monde. Exactly.
How do you do it, Dave? How do you?
I was just saying, like for Reunited, I was very, very appreciative that the deadline was extended those 3 days. It's like, you sure it's this time? Can I give it? No, but I am driven by deadlines, and the closer I get, the faster I'll write. But I do send them through a grinder. It's not my family, though they've listened after it's been produced, but I do send them through a workshop. Friends that I trust, like I said earlier, trust their critique. They'll say, hey, this isn't quite working, or sometimes this is straight dog shit. Rewrite it. But thank you for telling me that, right? So
honesty is key. Also, Queen Cam has a follow-up question. As writers, do you have a VA? VA means voice actor. So do you have a voice actor in mind when writing a story for the Grey Rooms or for any other podcast for that matter?
I would say I hit the jackpot with just even the few lines that both David Cummings and Graham read on All For Me, but I would love to hear my dialogue read by Peter Lewis. That's just me. I mean,
Peter Lewis is awesome.
He's one of my, like, I guess, all-time favorite voice actors. From everything he's done, whether it be White Vault or No Sleep, or he did a Dark Dice with Travis Van Groff, and I've live play D&D game, and it's just something about his delivery. Just, I would love to hear him read something of mine.
I just always have Morgan Freeman in mind, pretty much ever since March of the Penguins. But no, otherwise it's like, whoever gets cast is going to be infinitely better than anybody I could ever pick. And always knocks it out of the park. So I know it's going to be good. And honestly, I like the surprise. It's like, ooh, who's it going to be? I love it.
Yeah, I'm always hopeful to write something worthy of Erin Lillis. She's on my Mount Rushmore of voice actresses, especially with this last Bane episode that she was in. I think it was called like The Secret Covenant or something like that. I'm butchering the title, but man, I was listening to that and I was just like, yep, that's who I want.
I don't have anyone particular in mind because so far I've only had one story, but the voice actress they picked for my story, Chantal Jean-Pierre, just knocked it out of the park for me for two of my characters, actually, because she voiced two in the same story. I was so impressed that I don't say that to pat myself on the back, but my story is one of my favorites that was produced because everything was in there, like everything I imagined down to the voices. So voice actress Chantal was awesome.
You're also the only author that can say her name the correct way as well. So that's beautiful to hear you say it that way instead of the way that we butcher it.
I would actually like to add Addison Peacock because I can listen to her read a menu.
Yeah, she's got a beautiful voice. Yeah.
She's fantastic.
We haven't had her on the podcast yet. I'll have to talk to Graham about that. I'll slip him a 20 the next time I see him. Another question. Eric37 asks, Who is your personal favorite author, horror or non-horror?
I'll go first. Give everybody time to think. My favorite author is H.P. Lovecraft. The only reason I say that is because he had such a command of the language. He was probably a very weird and horrible person to talk to. Bunch of documentaries about that. I do not condone his actions in any way, but the things that he would write, the way he could just wrap his words around a description of something, it caught me. The first story that really grabbed me in that way was his story, The Outsider, which if you haven't read The Outsider by H.P. Lovecraft, it is just one of the most phenomenal pieces of work told from a perspective that is unusual for its time and place. And he's my go-to when I'm like, I'm feeling kind of self-deprecating as an author. I just think about what he was writing in the early 1900s. We're talking 1920s, 1930s, and he was just knocking it out of the park, way ahead of his time. And I could admire that.
I don't think it's a fair question because, I mean, there's so many different genres that I read. It's just like for fantasy, there's a different one. Like, I'm a huge fan of Neil Gaiman, and from reading Sandman way back in the day to reading, his newer stuff. And one of my favorite short stories, period, was The Price. That was, I think, from Smoke and Mirrors. It just is just like Arthur had said, the command of the language. Yeah, they he can be wordsy or however they want to call it. But I
just call it British.
that too. No, but I mean, I pick up everything the man writes. But there's so many other authors, and like, I try to read as much as I can. I definitely consume a lot of media, so I can't say that. If I had to pick one, on the Gallegos, and they have to, we're pulling the lever. If you don't give us one, it would have to be Gaiman, I think.
Solid choice.
Yeah.
Alex, who's your favorite?
For a similar reason, just because of the I'm going to say the way he abused the English language. It's got to be Douglas Adams.
Yes! Absolutely.
We're not panicking.
Exactly. And it's exactly the same sorts of things you're talking about, but, nobody's mind worked the way his did. And I wish he had gotten a chance to write more. Gone too soon. I think it's like one of the very first chapters of that first book. He describes a spaceship as big as an office block, as silent as a bird. It hung in the air exactly the same way that bricks don't. It's like,
yeah, you say abuse, I say emphasize, because
yeah.
Oh man,
they're two sides of the same coin when it comes to writing, and it's just it was the only. Well, maybe not the only one, but it's at least the first one that I ever came across where the prose wasn't just there as connective tissue between the story and the dialogue and stuff. It was more interesting to read than whatever the characters were doing and whatever the plot was ostensibly about. It's like, whatever, they're off flying a spaceship doing some stuff, but tell me more about your weird observational comedy about the universe. And that's what I'm really here for.
Absolutely. I always secretly thought that Bob was based off Marvin, the robot, in a way.
Oh, interesting.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, absolutely. The way that they just kind of loathe everything, but they like to talk about why they loathe it so much.
They're just so unimpressed with, unimpressed with the universe.
right?
and yet they're still a part of it all, and they just keep going through it. Yeah, it's so funny to me how Bob just fucking hates humans, but just wants to be a human so bad. It's very.
Well, it's that way he'll be able to have this terrible pain down all the arm and his
All the
left side.
diodes in my arm. Yeah. You're reaching into the British version. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, CM, did we cover your favorite author?
No, and I was hoping you'd forget about it.
No chance.
I have phases of reading and binge read. Like, I had a phase of Clive Barker, the Books of Blood, for a long time. Then Stephen King. I started reading those when I was way too young. Oh my god! I have memories of going to the library and people looking at me weird picking out those books because I was like 10, 11, 13. Like, that's not what you read at that age, but that's what I read.
I'm there with you. I was like 9 when I read it. So,
Yeah,
I mean, you're just speaking my language here.
My favorite, I loved Bazaar. Is it Bazaar in English? It's Bazaar in French, but in English, I think it's a different title. And The Storm of the Century was one of my favorites. Anne Rice, for a long time, I binge read everything until she went down the loophole of religion, which completely lost me.
You did the vampire stories, right?
Yes, I'm really into vampires. And the Mayfair Witches also was a really interesting series. And then I went down the historical rabbit hole, like Diana Gabaldon, who's doing Outlander on TV at the moment. She has 9 or 10 books of that series. And what else? I was looking at my bookcase. I'm like, who's my favorite? I don't think I have a favorite. I'm a fan of a lot of the different authors, but I don't think I have one favorite.
Well, you've named enough. I mean, so far you seem to be a very well-rounded lover of authors. So
I am.
You win.
It wasn't a contest.
All right. Now, if I could add one right now, I guess contemporary horror author would probably be Grady Hendrix. There's one scene in every one of his books that has stuck with me. Whether it's My Best Friend's Exorcism or the Southern Book Club's Guide. Just that one scene that just makes me every time. So if it sticks with me, I consider that, pretty good.
Good question, Brooks. Lots of good discussion. What's the next one?
So I'm not sure how to break this down, and maybe only you and I, Arthur, you and I, might be the only ones to answer this. But
me and him, I got it.
Me and him and I and they and us. Doozer Pindon asks, how many seasons have been planned out so far, and what parts of the story have changed since the beginning of season 1?
Well,
what is your take, Arthur?
You got to look at the origins of where the Grey Rooms began, because it began with Jason's nightmare in a single room. And now we've expanded to, 4 or 5 different realms. We got the Hells, we got the Mount, we got the Grove, we got the Far, we got all this world that Brian and Zinke have given us. I mean, it's unlimited from here. As far as what's planned out, well, he's just trying to get more information. And I'm sorry, my British compadre, this American ain't giving up that info for nobody.
And you're talking about future plans here.
Oh, yeah. All those future plans have to get approved. And as of right now, that's top secret, bud. G14 classified.
But just the other day in our meeting, you said that the entirety of the Grey Rooms was just the dream of a little circus boy. So
yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's the Grey Rooms exists entirely inside a snow globe of an autistic child at the circus. That's 100% accurate.
Yes.
That actually explains a lot, including about my life as one of the people that's written into it. I assume I'm included in the...
it explains everything.
Love that image.
There. Yeah, I was going to say, that's a deep pull there, Arthur. That's a real deep pull there, brother.
I'm a child of the 80s. Leave me alone.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
All right, so Tori Miller, who is our community manager on Discord, asks, "Will you guys bring back the light bulb?" And I think that's just such a beautiful question, because if I were to, if someone said, "Quick, give me an image for what represents the Grey Rooms," it would be a flickering light bulb. I mean, there's nothing it just reeks of just classic Grey Rooms from season 1, because it will always have been Raymond and Bob and their relationship as the beginnings of what your exposure is to the Grey Rooms, unless you're just weird and you listen to podcasts backwards. I don't know. If we could bring that light bulb back, I don't know how it would play as a character or, in a setting. I mean, as listeners, we'd instantly know, like, oh, whatever season 10, 12, 15 that we're on now, oh, listen to that sound there. That's clearly just Raymond and Bob. So you can't exactly stick that flickering light bulb, with some other character.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's play some devil's advocate here, Brooks. We'll spin that question a little bit. We'll go around the table here. CM, when you first heard the light bulb, what did you think the first time you heard that light bulb in season 1?
I'll be honest here. I binge listened, and it's been so long that I forgot the light bulb.
Oh, for shame. Brooks,
Shame.
edit that out. Alex, when you first heard that light bulb, what did you think?
It was like, oh, this is like, this person's in a bad place. And it pretty much, it immediately sets the tone. And well, I'll let everybody else answer, but I have more on the light bulb.
Well, it's that auditory stimulation that gives us that visual sensation, right? So we've heard that fluorescent bulb click, and no matter what the, I guess, environment that we're in, it's a sense of unease. It's whether, because like strobe lights give us a sense of unease, whether you're sensitive to that or that stop motion. Like that's one of my notes too. It's just like, that stop motion girl coming out of the well and Ring, sort of like, just that gets me every time. So it's that feeling, but I mean, any kind of memory and emotion is tied to a sense, and that is one of them. Just that twinge of this light isn't working.
Yeah, and I'm for me personally, it was just like Alex said, it set the tone immediately. It's like, this is a bad place, this is a dark place, this is a dingy place. I mean, who the hell can afford light bulbs, right? And it's just like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? It goes to show you that with minimal effect, it can create it can evoke such a powerful feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But Alex, you said you have a theory about the light bulb?
Well, no, not really a theory. Just the one thing about it is I didn't realize how much I missed the light bulb until it came back, just for a brief little cameo at the end of season 2. And it was like, oh my gosh, it was like an old friend had come back to see me again.
Or an abusive relationship.
Old broken friend. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably more accurate.
Well, we got a little bit of that in the season 2, right? Whenever, I mean, spoiler if you haven't listened to it yet. Whenever Bob was in the rooms, we heard the bulb. Right?
In season 2?
Yeah.
Oh, in this season, the most recent one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you said season 2 for some reason. I was going to say, no, that was a hotel that didn't happen. Yeah, there's this nostalgia connected viscerally to the sound that, and it was never anything. I don't think anyone listened to season 1 and was even conscious of it. As we went through season 1, nobody ever said, oh, and yeah, that light bulb sound, what the hell is that all about? And remember also, There was like the dripping of the water. It was just a very cold prison. But it was mentioned that later on in the, previous seasons where we've got Bob back, in the Grey Rooms again, that sound comes back and you're like, oh shit, it brings back all these feelings, like watching like an old cartoon from the early 90s when we were kids. This nostalgia of just, I never thought about this in my daily, but now being presented, to the sound, I'm conjuring back all the feelings I had when I first went through season 1. Because for sure, if you've been a fan since the very beginning, listening from season 1, man, there was never a podcast at the time that was like the Grey Rooms. And so what a journey we all went through, just wondering, what the fuck is this voice talking to this poor man that's trapped in this cell and he's being killed? What the goddamn hell is going on here? And the whole time that bulb is ever present, but it's just in the background. It's just ambiance. It was never like, Raymond never was like, oh, what's that? Why is that? Someone should fix that bulb. It was never in the foreground. And yet, you hear it, all these years later, and you're like, oh shit, season 1, that's Raymond, son, and it brings this nostalgia back. It's beautiful.
What you're saying is, I can now claim PTSD because of light bulbs.
That sounds right.
Yes,
100% legit.
And I think it's also the role reversal of Bob being under the microscope and the warden watching him. Like Bob watched Raymond, right? It's that whole complete world shifting. And yet there's that one familiar sound that ties everything together.
It shows how our auditory receptors are tied into everything else. Like a lot of people won't even think about this in their daily life, but if you have a cold and you can't breathe through your nose, you can't taste any of your food. But you're never conscious of that during your normal goings about during the day, like, oh, this pizza tastes great, I'm so glad my nose is clear. You don't connect the two. You're not connecting that sound in the background that you're so used to all the time until it's not there, and then it comes back again.
I don't know. Whenever I hear that flickering bulb, I always get kind of like a dusty smell in my nose. It's like psychosomatic. I get like a dusty smell, and it's like I feel a little chill. And then it just goes away. And I'm like, what the hell was that?
Have you been listening in an attic? Because that might...
Yeah, I would consider your surroundings, Arthur. I don't know. You might want to move. There could be mold present. Who knows?
I don't know where I am right now. I'm up to 9 beers now.
What am I? Who am I? Where am I?
I still have a Wi-Fi signal, so I'm somewhere close to my house.
Hooray!
Oh, yeah. On a scale of 1 to 12 pack, how much do you like this season?
11-2.
There you go.
Huzzah.
There you go. All right. Well, folks, as we come to a close here, I do want to give everybody the space, if you can, to maybe share some kind of social media or a website or just anything or anywhere that anybody can get a hold of your writings, can find anything else that you've worked on, any other podcasts that you've submitted to, or even just what plans you have for the future as a writer. Because we all know that none of you are just sitting there like, oh yeah, no, I'm done. I've hung that hat. I'm not doing this anymore. So please, let's start with you, Alex. Like, what are you working on? Where can we find any of your stuff?
I'm planning on something for season 6, hopefully. And then you can, of course, find me on Twitter, where I post extremely infrequently, to the point that people have questioned several times whether or not I am still alive. Let this interview serve as proof for the next year that I still am. And then, who else? Who knows? What else the future holds for me, I'm not ever sure myself. 100% Team Panther right here. But I guess I should give you the Twitter handle. It's just go to twitter.com. I'm sure you'll find me. That is ALEXG2490.
And what about you, CM Peters?
I am ready to conquer the world. No, I'm pretty much Yeah, I'm in a lot of places. I have my website, cmpeters.com, where you can find the books I've published. I have a Facebook page. I am on Twitter at Charlie M. Peters. I am on Instagram at author CM Peters. Where am I?
You have a new podcast.
Yes, I do. I have a new podcast with Tanner Wood that we created 2 months ago. We have 3 episodes. There's one. We have an episode coming every other Saturday. It's called Baseline Feed. We have our website, baselinefeed.com, where you can find the podcasts, and on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. I'm writing a book. I'm trying to finish a book at the moment. I have another planned for 2023 and about 15 others that are outlined and still haven't touched them. So I think that's enough for me now. Somebody else?
We edit so I can go before CM.
Absolutely, if that's what you really desire, I guess.
No, I'm teasing. No, absolutely, and you know that's great. I am in edit/workshop mode right now, so I've been reading and giving ideas and workshopping for a few folks. Currently, nothing new in the works for me specifically. You can find a bunch of my reviews and what have you on a website, horrorbound.net. Where I've done some, true crime stuff, the Erickson twins, and some book reviews, some, short fiction as well. And possibly through the horrorbound.net site, taking my D&D group for a live play through Ravenloft soon. So there's going to be some horror invested in that.
Nice.
So yeah, we're thinking about launching that and doing that on a YouTube thing. So come check us out if you have any idea what to read next, what to watch next. Horrorbound.net is horrorbound.net is where you can find us with that.
I am always available on Twitter, arthuruncktweets.com. .com. Listen to me. God, I really am 9 beers drunk.
Yep.
Not 12 pack.
Not 12 pack, not org, not brewery.
I think you could get drunker.
At arthuruncktweets is where I'm at on Twitter. You can always hit me up on arthurunk.com. I am on staff the Grey Room, so you can email me at arthurunk@grayrooms. What's our thing? At grayrooms.com?
.com.
I don't remember what our email is. Whatever. Just find me somewhere, probably in a field.
Just yell out really loud for Arthur, and he'll come find you.
Chasing the coyotes.
All right, here we go.
Or he'll send Brooks to come find you, right?
Here we go. Take 2. A lot more coherent thinking. Maybe. He's going to leave all this in. Bastard.
I might. But here, I'll even give you a shot. Well, you and I will debate this later. So, Arthur, where can we find you?
At arthuruncktweets.com. God damn it.
Well, we're leaving it in now.
I was fully expecting to say, welcome, roomies.
All right, from the beginning, good evening and welcome to a special episode of Behind the Doors.
I'm in hell. Craig stopped recording 30 minutes ago.
No, he definitely did not.
At arthuruncktweets is my Twitter handle. arthurunk.com is my website. And you can always find me on staff at thegrayrooms.com.
Excellent. I've never actually told people, but if any of you want to yell at me and tell me that I do a terrible job at this, you can email me at brooks@thegrayrooms.com, and that's where you can find me. Strange, I've never said that before. But anyways, my DMs are open. Yay.
100%. You can find us all on the Discord. Come join us.
Absolutely. That link will definitely be in the bottom of the show notes. Well, it was great having everyone aboard who joined tonight. I appreciate each of you for taking the time to sit and chat, and I thank all of you for helping us to create the world of the Grey Rooms. Gang,
I appreciate the invite and appreciate just being a part of the canon that is the Grey Rooms.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
It has been an absolute honor every time.
And once again, I am drunk. And I don't know why.
We can find you at arthur.com, right?
Yeah, you can find me wherever, whoever. Come find me, I dare you.
Excellent.
Hashtag Arthur Unk is drunk.
Arthur Unk is drunk.com.
.org. Three sheets to the win.com.
.edu.mil. .org.
.co.gov.
Oh man.
.ca.
Creed thoughts.
At geocities.com.
Oh wow. Talk about deep
reaching
holes.
into
That's two.
That's the Wayback Machine right there.
Wow.
And as usual, the biggest thank you goes out to our fans and followers who listen daily and spread the good word of Bob. May you languish, lament, and loathe, but always with love. Hashtag stay gray. Take care and enjoy your evening, everybody.
Night.
I blame you, Craig.
And good night, folks. Bye.
Join us each week after every episode for another edition of Behind the Door.